In a forest where the trees leaned close, as if sharing secrets, a narrow path shimmered with warm golden light. This was the Whispering Forest, a place where leaves softly hummed and the air smelled like honey and pine. Every morning the forest woke up slowly, stretching its branches and blinking with tiny fireflies that never seemed to sleep. The ground sparkled with dew, and soft beams of sunlight slipped through the leaves like friendly fingers, saying hello. On this gentle path walked a small girl known by everyone as Little Red, because of the bright red hooded cape she always wore. The cape was not just clothing. It was a gift, stitched with care, and it fluttered behind her like a cheerful flame as she walked. Whenever people in the nearby village saw that red hood moving along the forest edge, they smiled, knowing kindness was passing by. Little Red was not little in spirit. Her steps were light, but her eyes were full of wonder, always noticing things others passed by. She noticed how mushrooms looked like tiny umbrellas after rain, how spider webs shimmered like silver strings, and how butterflies followed her as if she were part of their game. She often stopped to greet flowers, whispering hello, as though they might answer back. That morning she carried a basket lined with a soft blue cloth. Inside were warm rolls wrapped carefully to stay fresh, berry jam that sparkled like rubies in a small jar, and a tiny bottle of sweet milk sealed with a cork. The basket felt comforting in her hands, reminding her of why she was walking this path. She was on her way to visit her grandmother, who lived in a cozy cottage at the edge of the forest, where the trees opened into a quiet clearing as Little Red walked. She hummed a tune her grandmother used to sing, a gentle song about stars finding their way home no matter how dark the sky became. Her voice was soft, but the forest seemed to listen. Birds hopped closer, tilting their heads. A squirrel waved its fluffy tail as if keeping time with her song. Even the leaves rustled in rhythm, joining her melody. Everything felt safe, familiar, and kind. Yet the Whispering Forest had another side. It was magical, yes, but it also liked to test those who walked through it. Not with fear, and never with cruelty, but with choices. The forest believed that every traveler grew a little when they learned to listen to their heart. From behind a tall oak tree stepped a figure with soft gray fur and a long, graceful tail. His paws barely made a sound on the forest floor. This was the wolf, known in quiet forest tales as Silvertongue. He was tall, but not frightening, and he moved smoothly, like a shadow made of silk. His eyes sparkled with clever thoughts, and his smile looked friendly enough to make anyone pause and listen. "Good morning, little traveler," Silvertongue said, bowing slightly. His voice was smooth, like water flowing over stones. Little Red stopped, surprised but polite. Her grandmother had taught her to greet others kindly, even strangers. Still, she held her basket a little closer, just as a habit. "Good morning," she replied. "The forest looks bright today." "It does," the wolf said, glancing at the sunlight slipping through the trees. "And you look brighter still, with that lovely red hood. It suits you very well. Where are you headed on such a fine day?" Little Red hesitated just a moment. It was only a heartbeat, but it mattered. She remembered her grandmother's gentle advice, "Be kind, but be wise." "I'm visiting my grandmother," she said carefully. "She lives near the far clearing." Silvertongue's ears twitched with interest. "Ah, the far clearing," he said, nodding as if he knew it well. "That is quite a walk." "You must be tired." Little Red shook her head with a small smile. "I like walking. The forest keeps me company." The wolf chuckled softly. "Indeed it does. But tell me, have you ever seen the Rainbow Meadow?" Little Red's eyes widened. "Rainbow Meadow? Oh yes," Silvertongue said, lifting one paw and pointing toward a twisting path that sparkled with colorful light. "It's just a small turn away. Flowers that glow even in shadow, stones that giggle when stepped on, and butterflies that paint the air as they fly. A place like that should not be missed, especially by someone with such curious eyes." Little Red felt her heart flutter. She loved magical places. She imagined glowing flowers bending toward her, laughing stones bouncing under her feet, and butterflies leaving trails of color in the air. The path Silvertongue pointed to looked inviting, wrapped in soft colors like a dream you didn't want to wake from. Still, something inside her felt quiet and unsure. It was not fear, but a gentle tug, like a whisper reminding her of her promise to her grandmother. She looked down at her basket, then ahead at the familiar path she had walked many times before. "That sounds lovely," Little Red said slowly. "But I don't want to be late." Silvertongue laughed softly, as if the idea amused him. "Late? Oh no, little one. This path is a shortcut. Much quicker than the long road you're on now. You'll reach your grandmother sooner," and with a heart full of wonder. As he spoke, the forest seemed to hold its breath. The birds paused mid-song. Even the breeze slowed. Little Red looked down at her shoes, dusty but comfortable, then back at the familiar path ahead. It was steady and calm, just as it always had been. The new path shimmered with excitement and color, almost calling her name. A tiny bluebird fluttered down onto a branch nearby. It chirped once, a small, sharp sound, then tilted its head as if waiting. Little Red noticed the bird and smiled. She took a deep breath. "Thank you for telling me about Rainbow Meadow," she said kindly. "Maybe I will visit another day when I'm not carrying important things." Silvertongue's smile did not fade, but his eyes narrowed just a little, like a candle flickering in a draught. "Of course," he said smoothly. "You are a thoughtful one. Perhaps I will walk with you for a while then." They walked side by side, the wolf's long steps matching Little Red's smaller ones. He spoke about the forest, pointing out trees with twisted roots and rocks shaped like sleeping animals. Little Red listened, but she also shared stories of her own. She told him about her favorite tale, the moon fox who learned to share light instead of keeping it all to himself. Silvertongue listened closely, nodding at just the right moments. "A wise story," he said. "Light is more beautiful when shared." As they walked, Silvertongue began to ask more questions. How often did she visit her grandmother? Did anyone else live near the cottage? What treats did her grandmother like best? Little Red answered some questions, but not all. She talked about stories and songs, but when questions felt too personal, she gently changed the subject. She pointed out a ladybug crawling across a leaf, or asked the wolf if he had ever seen snowberries glow at night. Silvertongue chuckled. "You are clever," he said. "Not many notice such small wonders." Little Red shrugged. "Small things matter," she replied. "They tell you how big things feel." The forest seemed to sigh with approval. Leaves rustled softly, and the path ahead glowed a little brighter, as if encouraging her forward. After a while, Silvertongue slowed his steps. "I must go this way," he said, pointing toward a darker trail that curved away between thick trees. "But remember Rainbow Meadow? Magic waits for those who dare to wander." Little Red nodded. "I will," she said honestly. "Thank you for the company." The wolf bowed again and slipped into the trees, his gray fur blending with the shadows. Soon he was gone, as if he had never been there at all. Little Red stood still for a moment. Her heart beat a little faster now, not from fear, but from thinking. She felt proud that she had listened to that quiet voice inside her. She adjusted her red hood, straightened her basket, continued along the path. As she walked, the forest slowly returned to its cheerful rhythm. Birds sang again. Sunlight danced on the ground. A pair of mushrooms waved as she passed, and she laughed softly, waving back. The path curved gently, leading her deeper into the woods. In the distance, she could almost see the warm glow of her grandmother's clearing. Little Red walked on, carrying not just a basket of treats, but a growing sense of confidence. The whispering forest watched her go, leaves whispering softly, pleased with the choice she had made. And somewhere deeper among the trees, Silvertongue paused, his clever eyes following the red flicker of her cape, already planning his next move. The path opened slowly into a quiet clearing where the trees stood in a gentle circle, as if protecting something precious at the center. Their branches curved inward, forming a soft green roof that filtered the evening light into warm shades of gold and pink. Little Red stepped forward, and the warm glow she had seen from far away grew brighter with each step. There, resting peacefully beneath a sky brushed with soft colors, stood her grandmother's cottage. It looked just as Little Red remembered it, small, round, and full of life. The walls were painted a soft cream color, and climbing flowers wrapped themselves lovingly around the windows. Those round windows shone like friendly eyes, glowing with lantern light from inside. A thin line of smoke curled gently from the chimney, carrying the comforting smell of warm tea, baked herbs, and fresh bread. The scent alone made Little Red feel safe. She smiled, feeling her shoulders relax as if she had set down an invisible weight. Every visit to this place felt like a deep, happy breath. The cottage always seemed to welcome her before she even reached the door. The wooden steps creaked softly under her feet, not in complaint, but in greeting, as if they recognized her. The door opened with a familiar sound that felt less like wood moving and more like a warm hug inside. The room glowed with lantern light that flickered gently against the walls. Shelves filled with jars of dried flowers, herbs, and berries lined every corner, each labeled with tiny handwritten tags. A small kettle hummed quietly on the stove, its song slow and soothing. The air was rich with warmth and comfort, wrapping around Little Red like a soft blanket. Her grandmother sat near the window in a cozy chair, wrapped in a patchwork quilt stitched with many colors and patterns. Her silver hair shone softly like moonlight, and her eyes sparkled with kindness. "There you are, little spark," her grandmother said, her voice gentle and happy as soon as she saw the red hood. "I felt the forest settle when you came close." Little Red hurried forward and wrapped her arms around her grandmother, pressing her cheek against the familiar warmth. "I brought you rolls and jam," she said happily, setting the basket down on the table. "And milk, just like you like," her grandmother chuckled, patting her hand. "You always remember the little things. That tells me your heart is listening."
Ow.
They sat together at the small wooden table, sipping tea that tasted faintly of flowers and sunshine. The cups warmed their hands, and the quiet ticking of the clock filled the space between their words. Little Red shared her walk through the forest, her voice animated as she described the humming leaves, the butterflies, and the friendly creatures along the path. Finally, she spoke about Silvertongue. She described his smooth voice, his sparkling eyes, and the colorful path he had offered. As she spoke, her grandmother listened without interrupting, her expression calm and thoughtful, her hands resting peacefully in her lap. When Little Red finished, there was a gentle pause, filled only by the ticking of a tiny clock shaped like an owl perched above the shelf. "You did well," her grandmother said softly. "Not every choice that shines is meant for us at that moment. Wisdom is knowing when to wait." Little Red nodded slowly. It felt hard. The rainbow meadow sounded so beautiful. Her grandmother smiled, lifting her teacup slightly. "Many things do. That doesn't mean they are bad. It just means timing matters. Trust grows when you listen to that quiet feeling inside." The lanterns flickered warmly, as if agreeing with her words. Outside, the forest slowly shifted as evening deepened. Shadows stretched across the clearing, and the breeze carried new sounds, crickets waking, leaves whispering, and the soft hoot of an owl. Somewhere beyond the ring of trees, Silvertongue watched. He moved quietly, stepping from shadow to shadow, his clever eyes fixed on the cottage. He had hoped Little Red would wander. He had hoped curiosity would pull her away from the path. But now, he saw something else growing in her, something steadier than curiosity, something calm and bright. Silvertongue adjusted his plan, smoothing his fur and lifting his chin. If clever words had not worked on the path, perhaps patience would. Back inside, Little Red helped her grandmother prepare a simple supper. They kneaded dough together, and when flour puffed into the air like tiny clouds, they both laughed. A spoon slipped from Little Red's hand and tapped the floor with a clatter, and that made them laugh even harder. The cottage filled with warmth, not just from the fire, but from shared joy and gentle humor. As night settled, the forest outside shimmered under a blanket of stars. The moon rose slowly, painting the clearing in silver light. Little Red sat by the window, resting her chin in her hands, watching fireflies drift like tiny lanterns floating on invisible strings. That was when she noticed a shape near the edge of the trees. It was Silvertongue. He stood at a distance, not hidden, but not too close either. The moonlight touched his fur, giving it a soft glow. He raised a paw politely, his smile calm and measured. Little Red felt a small flutter in her chest. But she remembered her grandmother's words and took a steady breath. Her grandmother joined her at the window. "Ah," she said gently. "The forest has sent another lesson." They stepped outside together, the lantern light following them like a soft shield. The grass felt cool beneath Little Red's shoes. Silvertongue bowed, just as he had on the path. "Good evening," he said. "I hope I am not disturbing your peace." Little Red stood a little taller, her red hood glowing warmly in the lantern light. "We are having a quiet night," she replied kindly. "I only wished to see if you arrived safely," Silvertongue said. "The forest can be full of surprises." Her grandmother smiled warmly, her eyes calm but watchful. "It certainly can, and it is always kind to those who walk with care." Silvertongue's eyes flicked between them. "You are fortunate," he said to Little Red. "Not everyone has such guidance." Little Red thought for a moment before answering. "Guidance helps," she said, "but listening matters too." The wolf studied her, then laughed softly, not mockingly, but thoughtfully. "Perhaps you are right. The forest changes us all." For a moment, the air felt balanced, like a pause between notes in a song. Then Silvertongue stepped back, his tail brushing the grass. "Until we meet again," he said, and melted into the shadows. Little Red watched until she was sure he was gone. Her grandmother squeezed her hand gently. "Clever does not always mean cruel," she said. "But it does mean you must stay awake inside." That night, Little Red slept in the small bed near the window, wrapped in a quilt stitched with stories and tiny symbols. She dreamed of winding paths and gentle choices, of glowing meadows waiting patiently, and of a red cape moving forward with steady steps. Morning came softly. Birds sang, and sunlight painted the cottage walls gold. After breakfast, Little Red prepared to head home. Her grandmother packed a small pouch of herbs and tucked a note inside, sealing it with a tiny star-shaped mark. "For when you need reminding," she said. Little Red hugged her tightly. "I'll come back soon." As she stepped onto the path again, the whispering forest welcomed her. The trees leaned close, not to test her now, but to cheer her on. She walked with confidence, her red hood bright against the green. Along the way, she noticed something new. The twisting path to Rainbow Meadow was still there, but it no longer shimmered loudly. It waited quietly, patient and calm. Little Red smiled at it. "Another day," she whispered. The forest hummed approvingly, far away. Silvertongue watched from a hill, his clever eyes thoughtful. He had learned something too. Not every traveler could be guided by shine alone. Some carried a light that could not be easily turned, and so the forest breathed on, holding its magic, its lessons, and its stories, ready for the next set of footsteps that would walk its winding paths.